You're deep inside the Forbidden Mountain, but don't worry. The Yeti only roars when you're not relaxing. Enjoy the icy thrill with the Disney feeling. Subscribe and join our Patreon for more early ambiance escapes.
Letter from the Snowline, December 27th, 1891. Recovered from the journal of Lieutenant Colonel Alistair W. Lyle. Presumed lost near Mount Makalu. Addressed to Lady Eleanor Lyle, Surrey, England. My dearest Eleanor, forgive the delay. I have but a moment to write, and only this fragile scrap of paper to capture the storm that surrounds me, both without and within. By the time you read this, I may already lie beneath the snow. We have reached the outer edge of the Makalu Massif, a realm untouched by compass or crown. The maps here surrender to imagination. Peaks rise like cathedral spires through the mist. The air itself seems sacred and hostile to our presence. This is where the world ends politely and the mountain begins in earnest. It is here, in this place beyond paths, that we believe the truth, or the myth, of the abominable one may dwell. I laughed at the word once, abominable, as if the mountain had birthed something grotesque, twisted. I imagined a beast, as if what haunted these ridges could be confined to claws and teeth. But now, Eleanor, I have looked into the eyes of a godless thing. It began with signs, not footprints, absences, whole stretches of trail where no birds flew, no wind stirred, not even the snow fell. Silence hung heavy, like breath held too long. The mountain does not like to be watched, but something watches back. We found the tracks 2 days ago near a frozen ravine, 5 toes, nearly 2 feet long. The depth of each step spoke of weight beyond imagining. The stride, unnaturally wide. They crossed the snow at an angle and then ended. No trail in, no trail out. Dorja, our Sherpa, whispered a prayer I did not recognize. When I asked him what troubled him, he simply pointed toward the ridgeline and said, "He knows we are here." I dismissed it, of course. Men of science do not bow to ghost stories. And yet that night, beneath our canvas shelter, I heard something move. Not the crackle of frost, not the shifting of rock, but movement. Purposeful, slow, limbs too long for grace. A weight that made the snow moan. And then, breathing, thunder in a throat. Wind shaped into rhythm, as if the mountain itself had lungs. I rose to look. Dory caught my wrist with a hand that shook. "Do not see him," he whispered, "or he will see you." I lay awake the rest of the night, clutching the rifle I no longer trusted to matter. At dawn, the sky was white, our tents half buried, but we pushed on. That day, we reached what the locals call the Hollow Step, an ice bridge suspended between 2 cliffs, carved in not by glacier, but by time, a structure both fragile and eternal. Dorja would go no further. He placed a charm at its foot, bowed 3 times, and turned away. We never saw him again. Henry, our cartographer, laughed at the gesture, called it superstition. That night, Henry disappeared. No struggle, no blood, just his journal left open beside the campfire, where he had been sketching. A figure, tall, bent forward, arms long enough to brush the ground. A face caught between ape and nightmare. The image was drawn in pencil, but smeared with something darker, a substance I could not name and dared not touch. We followed what we believed to be Henry's tracks, but they turned and twisted in on themselves like a spiral. They ended beneath a frozen waterfall. No sign of collapse, no rope, no sound, only the ice, breathing. I have begun to sleep with my back to the fire now. Not for warmth, for defense. We see the eyes sometimes. Reflections high on the ridge, too high. They never blink when we look, only when we look away. I used to believe the Yeti was a brute, a relic of evolution. But I understand now. It is not a beast. It is aware. It does not stalk us. It studies us. I believe it walks not on legs, but on memory. I believe it chooses who sees it. I believe it decides who leaves. My darling Eleanor, I must end this. The snow is falling again, thicker than before. The trail behind us has vanished, and the wind has begun to whisper. Words I don't know, but I feel them all the same. If I do not return, know that I did not die of cold, nor accident. I died in the presence of something older than history. A reckoning, a reminder. We thought we were explorers. We were trespassers, and the mountain has corrected us. Tell our sun to seek lower summits. Tell the world to leave the white places alone. Tell them some secrets stay cold because the world is warmer without them. Yours, always, Alistair. A note scrawled in different handwriting on the envelope flap. Recovered, 1972. Satchel found in glacial melt. No trace of the Lyle expedition. Only a boot, a brass compass, and this letter. File seal. Reproduced for archival reference.
Welcome, brave visitors, to the Royal Archive of Himalayan Antiquities. I'm Professor Finley Thatch, explorer, cryptid specialist, and occasional snowball target. You've arrived just in time. Tonight, for the first time in nearly a century, we open the vault to our most mysterious artifact, recovered from deep within the glacier caverns of Mount Everest itself. A golden talisman. Some call it a key, others a curse, but most know it by the name whispered only when the wind turns cruel. The Guardian's Eye. They say it belonged to the one who walks between storms, the watcher of the ice, the Yeti. Of course, we don't believe in fairy tales. We believe in fieldwork, science, and peer-reviewed journals, with footnotes. Still, if the legends are right, this talisman wasn't meant to be removed. It was buried to protect something, or to keep something asleep. But what's life without a little danger, Now then, your minecart awaits. Follow the torchlight through the archive tunnel, and please, do not touch the relic, not even a little. Buckle up, hang on to your hats, glasses, and rational explanations. You're now entering the forbidden relic in the highest peaks where even the clouds fear to linger. Something ancient still stirs. He is not a legend. He is not a beast. He is the balance between man and mountain. Long ago, the monks of Cercazon sealed away a talisman of great power, hidden beneath the glacier, locked in ice, guarded by silence. And then someone disturbed it. The vault has opened, the mountain has awakened, and the Guardian is coming. Look there, beyond a ridge, a shadow in the snow, too large to be human, too quiet to be kind. The carvings warned us. Do not build where the ice does not sleep. Do not step where prayers are buried. Do not take what the mountain has given to the storm. Too late now. We've entered sacred ground. The air is changing. The snow is remembering. Hold tight. The ground's unstable. The tracks, no, they're shifting. They weren't built for this. No one was. A claw mark, fresh, wide as a doorway. Eyes ahead. He's close. He is not furious. He is focused. You've taken something, and now you must give it back. Stop. Don't move. There. In the ice wall. He's watching. He steps through the mist. Taller than the cart, fur white as death. Eyes glowing not with rage but memory. He doesn't roar, he listens. He sees the talisman in your cart, and he reaches for it. Not to steal, to restore. The mountain trembles. Cracks form in the ice. A gust of wind like a scream. He holds the talisman. He closes his hand around it. And then he vanishes. The cave collapses. The storm breaks free. But not toward you. Away. Swept back into the hollow from where it came. And you are spared. The guardian let you go. Not because you were brave. Not because you were lucky. Because he chose to. And that is the difference between myth and mercy. You are no longer tourists. You are witnesses. Remember what you saw. Remember what you touched. And remember who forgave you for it. The snow settles. The light returns. Ahead, prayer flags flutter in the wind. The mountain watches you leave, but says nothing. Back in the vault, the relic rests where it began. Untouched, still glowing, still humming, for now. Welcome back to the village. That wasn't in the brochure. I'll, be updating the safety manual. Please exit to your left and consider visiting our gift shop. Now guaranteed 100% Yeti free. Probably. Let me know your preference for Yeti encounter story number 8. Park Rangers Missing Persons Report Victorian Expedition Journal Rescuers Body Cam Transcript or something more unconventional, like a local campfire story, dream recollection, or temple prophecy scroll.
In a village where the clouds kissed the rooftops and the winds whispered secrets through pine trees, there lived a young girl named Nima. Nima was like the snow in early spring, bright, curious, and always wondering where she wasn't supposed to. She chased goats across rice terraces, followed birds into the forests, and climbed higher than the elders ever said she should. Nima, her grandmother would warn, the mountain is alive, and some places are not for little feet. But Nima had little use for warnings. What she did love were stories, especially the ones her grandmother told by the fire, stories of the one who lived above the clouds, the Watcher, the spirit in fur, the White Shadow. The Yeti, her grandmother would whisper, always pausing after the name. He watches the ridges. He guards the old places. He keeps what should not be taken. Every child in the village grew up hearing tales of the Yeti. Most believed them, at least a little. But Nima, she wanted proof. So one morning, when the world was still and blue and her parents were asleep, Nima did something no child in the village had dared in many winters. She climbed. She carried only a small pack, a yak wool scarf, and a pocket of barley cakes. Her boots crunched softly on the snow as she passed the temple bell, touching it for luck, then turned up the narrow path where even the trees grew quiet. Past the tree line, the wind began to change. It didn't blow. It breathed. She stopped to rest near a rock shaped like a sleeping giant. That's when she noticed. There were no birds, no yak bells. Even the sky had gone pale and hollow. She looked down. Tracks, not goat, not human. Long, deep prints, with 5 strange toes pressed into the snow, like a handprint turned beast. She knew what they were, and still, she followed. Upward she climbed until the clouds were beneath her and the whole mountain seemed to hold its breath. Then she saw it. At the far edge of a snowy field, beside an ancient stupa carved with prayers, stood a figure. Taller than any man she had ever seen, cloaked in white fur like snow resting on branches. Its back was to her, still as a statue. Nima crouched behind a boulder. Her heart pounded so loudly, she worried the mountain might hear. Then the creature turned its head. She didn't run. Its face wasn't cruel. It wasn't kind either. It was still, like stone, like a glacier that has watched the world change for 1,000 years. It took one step toward her, then another, and stopped. Nima stood. A gust of wind lifted her scarf. It twisted through the air like a bird in flight. The Yeti reached out, slowly, carefully, and caught it before it touched the ground. He looked at the scarf, then at her, and without a word, he placed it gently on a flat rock in front of him. Then he turned and walked away. His prints were already vanishing, swallowed by the wind. Nima didn't move for a long time. When she finally picked up the scarf, it was still warm. She ran home, not out of fear, but wonder. She told no one what she saw. They wouldn't believe her. Or worse, they might. But every time the snow falls quietly and the clouds curl low, she looks to the mountains and remembers. The shadow in the snow. The one who watches. The one who knows where not to go. The one who lets the curious come close, but never too close. And still, in that village, they say, when a scarf disappears in the wind, or an animal returns safely from a storm, perhaps the Yeti was near.
There are places in the world where the land forgets time. where mountains sleep longer than empires. And sometimes, something wakes up before it's meant to. Welcome, travelers, to the forgotten railway of Zong. Tonight, your lantern-lit car will take you up the winding spine of the Himalayas, along the very tracks that once carried explorers, monks, and merchants to the edge of the unknown. But beware, this is not just a journey through stone and snow. It's a journey through story. Our tale begins nearly a century ago when British engineers carved a railway through this canyon. The mountains didn't mind at first, but they say the work crews disturbed something older than rock. The Sherpa guides begged them to stop. Do not build where the eyes are carved into the cliffs, they said, but the builders didn't listen. And then, one by one, they vanished. To your left are the remains of Sirka Station, burned in a fire that left no ashes. The villagers abandoned it overnight. Not a single body was found, but symbols were discovered on the walls. Carvings no one had seen in centuries. Clawed, deep, and still warm. They say he watches from the passes. They call him the Guardian, the White Walker, the one who waits between avalanches. But he has another name, the Yeti. He is not beast nor spirit. He is the mountain's memory, and some memory should never be disturbed. Brace yourselves. We're diverting from the main track. The old rail has collapsed, just as it did all those years ago. Hold tight. Look to the cliff. Do you see it? He's here, not chasing, guiding. He is not cruel. He is ancient. You are not intruders. You are witnesses. This cave, it's his sanctuary. The first monks carved their prayers here, hoping to keep him asleep. But the mountain shifts. The snow remembers. And now, he walks again. He could crush us, but he doesn't. He chooses to let us go. He is not bound by our stories. He is the silence after the last snowfall, the shadow just beyond the edge of the flame. He is the White Guardian. Not every protector wears a crown. Not every guardian needs a name. But if the snow ever grows still, and you hear your name carried on the wind, walk gently. You're being watched. We thank you for journeying with us through the whispers of Zong. And should your path take you up the mountains again, tread with care. Some legends are true and some are still watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, namaste, and welcome aboard the Everest Frontier Railway. I'm your guide, Jaya Singh, field naturalist, adventurer, and your window to the rooftop of the world. Now, before we begin, take a deep breath. That's Himalayan air in your lungs, thin, crisp, and full of mystery. Today, you're joining a rare scenic expedition up one of the highest rail lines ever constructed. We'll be passing through alpine forests, glacial ravines, and sacred valleys where ancient winds still whisper secrets. Our final destination? The mist-ringed summit pass beneath Mount Everest herself. Along the way, you may spot blue sheep, Himalayan tars, maybe even a snow leopard if you're lucky. But remember, out here, we're the guests. These mountains belong to older things than us. Now lean back, get cozy, and don't forget to look out both sides of the train. You never know what you might see. To your right, you'll notice the prayer wheels of Lingpa Village. Local custom says if you spin one while making a wish, the mountain might just listen. You'll also see rows of colorful flags strung between rooftops. They carry prayers into the wind, offerings for safe passage, calm weather, and unseen protection. Of course, not all prayers are answered the way we expect. A little farther up the slope, we'll be passing the ruins of the Monastery of the Wind. It was abandoned after the Great Avalanche of 1923, when the snow swallowed half the mountain face. The few monks who survived left behind only a single message, carved into the foundation stones. It reads, "He who walks where the ice does not sleep will wake the one who does." Creepy, right? It's probably just symbolic. Probably. Now, don't worry. Our route is much safer than theirs was. These rails were inspected just last week. Okay, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. We're entering the cloud veil now. Don't be alarmed if visibility drops. It's just the mountain hiding her face. She does that sometimes. Up ahead, on the cliffs to the left, you'll see what looks like deep vertical gashes in the stone. Geologists call them erosion scars, but the Sherpas have another name. They call them warning marks, scratches from something trying to climb down or up. You'll also notice the trees are thinning. That's not just altitude, it's fear. The elders say the forest grows quieter the closer you get to his domain. And by his, I mean the guardian. Now, don't worry. No one's seen him in years. Some say he's just a story for tourists. Others say he only appears to those who go too far. Of course, we're not going too far, right? Wait, hang on. Did anyone else feel that? We just lost forward momentum. Not normal. Let me check the onboard panel. No response. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm going to level with you. I'm seeing something outside, top of the ridge, just past the scree line. It's big, upright, watching. Don't panic, just stay still. There are tracks in the snow. They're recent, and they're huge. Too long for a man, too wide for a bear. I'm radioing for support, except, okay, looks like the radio's out too. That's fine. It's fine. Just a little glitch. Still no movement from the figure, but it's there. It hasn't blinked. I think it knows we're here. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna backtrack to the last junction and reroute through the avalanche corridor. It's rough terrain, but it'll get us down fast. Hold on tight. There's a rock slide starting. Keep your heads low. We've triggered something. Loose snowpack collapsing down the north slope. Stay calm. We're not in the path yet. Wait, the figure on the ridge. It's moving fast, but not toward us. It's going ahead. I think it's clearing the path. It's not chasing us. It's guiding us. We're through the tunnel. Sunlight breaking through the mist. Look, down there, flattened brush, broken ice. Like something swept the avalanche out of our way. I don't believe it. I truly don't. But I think we just met it. The Guardian. The one from the legends. They say he only reveals himself to those in danger. That he protects the mountain from those who disrespect it. And protects people from the mountain when she decides she's had enough. He didn't roar. He didn't threaten. He just watched. And led. I don't know what we saw back there, but I know it was real. And I know we're alive because of it. We're rounding the final turn now. Lingpa Village is just ahead. You made it. We made it. And maybe, just maybe, someone was watching over us all along. Thank you for riding aboard the Everest Frontier Railway. And next time you hear footsteps in the snow, don't run. Just listen and hope the mountain still remembers your name.
At approximately 7:35 on the morning of November 6th, our glacier basin substation received an unregistered emergency beacon ping from GPS coordinates 27.9475 degrees north, 86.7060 degrees east, an uncharted stretch of the Kumbila Ridge, well beyond permitted expedition routes and not marked for foot traffic. The beacon was linked to one David T. Morrissey, age 32, a US national and licensed solo climber. He'd been issued a temporary permit valid through the end of November, but his clearance did not authorize exploration beyond the established ice shelf boundary. Base Camp 3 witnesses last observed him on the morning of November 5th, reportedly heading for the peaks alone. No further contact was made. He was not seen again. Section 2, Initial Search, I was tasked with leading a two-man recon accompanied by local assistant ranger Pasang Gyaltsen. We initiated a light pack hike, no snowmobile support due to rough terrain and declining conditions. We reached the last known ping zone by mid-afternoon. Visibility had already deteriorated. By 15:10, snowfall began intensifying into full whiteout conditions. We nearly turned back, but the beacon kept transmitting. At 16:03, Pasang called me over to a ridgeline depression where the snow was shallow. What I saw there didn't match any animal I've tracked in 22 years. Prints, five-toed, broad heel, deep arch, symmetrical stride, roughly double the average biped gait. They continued unbroken for over half a mile. No sign of entry, no sign of exit, no drag, no slippage. Just there, impossibly clean. I chalked it up to melt distortion. Pasang didn't speak, but I noticed him reach for his prayer beads. Section 3. The first night. We set a camp below the ridge, near the foundation of an old timber logging shelter. By then, the snowfall had slowed, but the wind carried a strange texture, like it was breathing in. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of pressure. That's the best word I can find for it, like the forest exhaled. Pine needles began falling from trees that weren't moving. Pasang was already awake, staring past the fire. He wouldn't respond when I spoke, then we heard it, a sound that didn't belong to any predator or echo I've catalogued. It was low, impossibly wide, not a growl, not a howl. It reminded me of glacier ice shifting, except it was shaped, controlled, alive. Pasang only said one word, "Me go." When I asked what it meant, he looked away. Section 4, the cave. The next morning, the beacon signal pulled us to a narrow incline west of the main ridge line. GPS said the source was roughly 30 meters beyond the hanging ledge, barely wide enough for safe traversal. At the end of the ledge, we found a frost-covered crevasse in the rock. No visible entry tracks, no disturbed snow. It was like the cave had exhaled itself. We entered, Morris's pack was just inside, torn straps, a broken thermos, his journal soaked through but intact, no signs of trauma or blood. Deeper inside, we found the signs of nesting, old burn scars, bones, some animal, some not. Several were clearly human. The walls bore gouges, clean, deliberate claw marks, angling downward like warnings. At the back of the chamber was a mound of hardened snow, perfectly smooth, too smooth. We didn't dig, we didn't touch it. We backed out. Section 5, the encounter. We were preparing to radio in our position when the mountain stopped making sound. No wind, no birds, no echo. Then footsteps, not stumbling, not casual, deliberate, waiting. Pasang raised his hand, whispered something I couldn't make out. I swept the mouth of the cave with my flashlight. At first, nothing. Then, just for a breath, eyes, amber, wide, too far apart, too high off the ground. They blinked once, then disappeared. Section 6, extraction. We left the cave immediately. Pasang didn't speak the entire descent. He hasn't returned to duty. I hear he's left the region entirely. We recovered Morris's beacon. No further evidence of his body. No drag marks. No trail. Nothing. He's gone. Section 7. Final notes. Personal redacted. I've tracked cougars. I've camped near bear dens. I've been stalked by grey wolves. This wasn't that. Whatever left those prints, whatever watched us from the mouth of that cave, it's not hunting, it's not protecting territory, it's managing it, correcting. I asked a local linguist about a word Pasang used, migo. It doesn't mean animal, it means the man who isn't a man. Attachment, recommendation. Effective immediately, the area surrounding 27.9475 degrees north, 86.7060 degrees east should be marked unstable terrain, entry prohibited. Install signage at all cross routes warning against off-path travel. Recommend a future survey only via drone and only if absolutely necessary. Do not authorize solo permits within 5 kilometers of this zone. End of report.
was held hostage by the Yeti for 3 days. Originally published in the January 1994 issue of the Himalaya Globe by Blaine Maynard, investigative journalist, adventurer, and certified footprintologist, Kathmandu, Nepal. Call it a miracle, call it madness, call it the greatest cryptozoological discovery since the Mothman ordered takeout at a gas station. But whatever you do, don't call it a hoax. Because I, Blaine Maynard, noted adventurer and part-time night school professor, spent 3 full days in the snow-capped captivity of the most elusive creature on Earth, the Yeti, the abominable snowman, the white-furred watcher of the Himalayas. And I'm here to tell the tale. The disappearance. December 22nd, 1993, a Tuesday. I was hiking the Nupla Pass solo, deep into my 4th independent research expedition on the migratory mating behaviors of mountain cryptids, proudly funded by the Himalaya Globe, an unaffiliated and mostly solvent news source. The trail was steep, the air thin, and the vibes immaculately cursed. Around 3 p.m., the snow started falling sideways, out of nowhere. The wind howled like a goat in a blender, visibility dropped to 0. I found shelter in a shallow cave and set up my emergency bivvy. That's when I felt it, eyes, watching me. At first, I figured it was a goat, maybe 2 goats in a trench coat, but then I saw it, a silhouette, crossing the snow like a ghost with delts. It was big, it was fast, and it was standing upright. The last thing I remember that night was the sound of heavy breathing. Slow, patient, just outside the mouth of the cave. The hostage situation. When I woke up, I wasn't in the cave anymore. I was somewhere deeper, somewhere that doesn't show up on any map I've ever seen. The chamber, if you can call it that, was carved into solid rock, like a frozen cathedral. Crystals dripped from the ceiling. Snow hung down the walls like candle wax. There was light coming from somewhere, but I never found the source. And in the shadows across from me, he was there. The Yeti. He didn't growl. He didn't roar. He offered me a bowl of melted snow in what I can only describe as the most unnervingly sincere act of hospitality I've ever received. He watched me, not like prey, but like a scientist watches an ant, or a priest watches stained glass come to life. Every few hours, he'd vanish down the tunnels. Sometimes I heard him speaking, not alone, guttural calls, echoing from the deep. There was more than one. The escape. On the 3rd night, something changed. The ground shook. Ice cracked like a giant, cracking its knuckles. And the Yeti? He ran, full sprint, roaring loud enough to make my molars vibrate. I ran after him. No hesitation, no pride, just full, please don't leave me in a glacier crypt energy. As we barreled through the tunnel, I caught one last look. He was silhouetted against the moonlight, standing at the cliff's edge. He turned, stared, nodded, then vanished into the snowstorm. Moments later, a group of trekkers found me, barefoot, dazed, wrapped in fur I can't explain, muttering about a church beneath the glacier. The evidence they don't want you to see. They said I hallucinated. They blamed the altitude, the isolation. They ignored the 5 new photos that appeared on my camera. All of them blurry, all of them showing a tall, pale figure just outside the torchlight. They dismissed the 18-inch footprints found near my rescue site. They claimed the carved bowl I brought back was just a rock. But it's not just a rock, it hums. And I've spent every day since trying to find that cave again, but it's gone. Buried, or worse, protected. Conclusion. The Yeti is real, and he's a surprisingly good host. I survived. I didn't just see the Yeti, I stayed with him. I drank from his cave bowl. I watched him pace the halls of an ancient kingdom carved from frost. He didn't harm me, he didn't imprison me, he studied me like I was the cryptid. So laugh if you must. Dismiss me if you will. But one day, the ice will crack again, the tunnels will reopen, and the White Watcher will return. Only next time, he might not be so generous with his hospitality. Next issue, Bigfoot spotted at a Walmart garden center. We have exclusive photos.